Good evening, bipeds. Hey, Stephen Sashen, co-founder and chief barefoot officer from Xero Shoes here for our monthly Ask Me Anything live event. If you're not watching live, not a big deal. I'll tell you about that in a second, where you can literally ask me anything about barefoot running, barefoot shoes, minimalist shoes. Is there a difference between barefoot and minimalist shoes? Yes, there is. How you can transition safely and enjoyably to a more barefoot friendly lifestyle, or anything else that you can think of, including what I'm making for dinner, because I don't even know yet. So this is a live event. Like I said, if you have comments or questions, you can put them in below. I'm going over to where I can see them. There we go, over on my screen right there. So if I'm looking over there, you know why. And if you're not watching this live, you can still put your questions somewhere, wherever you can put them. And somebody from our customer happiness team will get back to you as soon as possible with a response. So before I jump in, for people who are new here, let me do the world's fastest intro to what we're doing here at Xero Shoes and why hundreds of thousands of people around the world has said that what we're doing is life-changing. And it's really simple. We're just not doing the things that cause problems to begin with. What do I mean by that? So many people don't know this. 1/4 of the bones and joints of your entire body are in your feet and ankles. They're supposed to bend and flex and move. And if they can't do that, that function that's all about balance, agility, mobility tries unsuccessfully to move into your ankle, your knee, your hip, and your back. And those things aren't designed to feel the same things your feet are. So by the time you got a problem that you're feeling in your knee, your hip, your back, it's been going on for quite a while. Sam, I'll get to that question in a bit. So, next. You have more nerve endings in the sole of your feet than anywhere but your fingertips and your lips. So your brain knows what you're stepping on or stepping in. So it can feel that and adjust accordingly to the terrain that you are moving over or on or across or whatever adjective or whatever preposition. Is that what it is you want to use? Yeah, I think that's what it is. Now, what we're doing here at Xero Shoes is trying to let your feet do their job so the rest of your body can do its job. How, you may ask? And if you didn't, I'll just say it. Well, first of all, and pardon me, I got something caught in my throat. We don't squeeze your toes together. We have a wider foot-shaped toe box. Your toes can spread and relax a little and do what's natural. We are low to the ground for balance and agility. We don't have a thing like this heel lift here, which messes with your posture. We don't have this toe spring, which does not flatten down. So you have a true zero drop or non-elevated heel and ball to your foot, which is natural. Just like if you were barefoot, that's how it'd be. Our shoes are super, super flexible. Of course, if your foot is doing that, that's a problem. You should probably go see a doctor immediately. But you get it. This actually is also good for travel. That's what people say, although that's really good for travel. But the point is that flexibility lets those bones and joints move the way they are supposed to. If you want more or less barefoot feeling, I was going to reach in and grab the removable insole or sock liner, but it's not in that shoe for some reason. But here, I'll grab another shoe. So you can have more or less barefoot feeling if you want it, a little extra protection if you want to keep this in. And if you want a more barefoot feeling, you can take it out. And our soles are designed to give you traction and protection, of course, but that ground feel you're looking for to let your brain know what you're stepping on or stepping in safely. And yeah, that more or less barefoot I just showed you. P.S. We make these things extra durable with material we call Feel True Rubber that is backed with a 5,000-mile sole warranty. And as you can see, we've got a whole collection, I think now up to 70 different styles of casual and performance shoes, boots, and sandals people use for everything from a stroll on the beach to a hike up a mountain to playing in the NBA and WNBA for reals. So that's what we're all about, and that's why we're here. But now a bunch of questions came in, so let me address them. Sam, what's happening to the 360? Coming back, it's going to be available on Amazon. I'm not sure if we're bringing it back onto our site. Not quite sure what the story is about that yet, but we're just waiting to get more in. Kitty says, hey, Stephen, part one, I'm training to walk, jog my first marathon in December. I really want to do the whole thing in Xero Shoes. I've been in Xeros exclusively for about a year now, mostly everyday wear and shorter walks, but I haven't trained for true long distance yet. I'll give myself about 12 months to get marathon ready. What would my step-by-step game plan be for safely building up to 26.2 miles in minimalist shoes in terms of mileage, progression, strength, mobility, et cetera, et cetera? I can't answer that because you might find this hard to believe. People are different. So this is one of those things where it's kind of like saying, what do I do to become, to be able to deadlift 500 pounds or any other significant endeavor? It's really going to be about you kind of feeling how it feels. So the best thing I can say is, obviously you want to push a little bit, but you don't want to do too much too soon. The problem, of course, You don't know you did too much too soon until you've done too much. But typically, especially if you're just in walking mode, it's just going to be that you feel a little sore. Wait till you feel unsore, and then maybe do a little bit less and just build up slowly. It's actually the advice that I would give you is the same advice I give to someone just starting out from scratch, which is do a little bit, like if you're walking, 10 minutes. If you're running, like 20 seconds for real. I'm going to say for real a lot today, I think. And then see how you feel the next day. If you feel just muscularly sore, then again, wait till you feel better. Do a little bit less until you can do that. And then as you feel better, add a little bit of time, add extra days, et cetera, et cetera. Make sure you give yourself enough time to rest. The thing that most people don't realize or forget is that the real change in your body happens during the rest phases after you do the work. So like if you're lifting weights, you don't get bigger or stronger from lifting weights. You get bigger or stronger from adding a little bit of stress and then resting so your body can recover, build more muscle, or become more efficient. That's another thing that I will suggest for you is pay attention to or ask yourself the question as you're walking, especially, how can I make this less effortful? How can I relax even more? And if you haven't seen the videos that I have, especially about walking, go to the website, xeroshoes.com, and there's a learn section, and you'll see walking the natural way. There's even a video on there that gives you a way of walking that might be a little less energy intensive that you'll find. So that's the best I can say for now. Give it a whirl and keep me posted along the way. You've got plenty of time, and I applaud you for that. Many people say, well, I got a marathon in 3 weeks and I want to be able to run in Xero Shoes. Like, well, have you run a marathon before? No. It's like, whoa, back up. So you want to do things when you're ready, not when you think you want to do them. So that's the best I can give you right now. Corey, was that the Prio Neo? Yes. This is one of the women's colors of the Prio Neo. Good eye. Part 4. Kitty says, I'm wearing the Mesa Trail and the Ridgeway. So the Mesa Trail is a trail shoe. The Ridgeway is a, kind of trail and everything shoe. I'm assuming, I don't know if this is a trail marathon or a road marathon. If it's a road marathon, I'm going to suggest playing with things like the HFS2 or the HFS if you want a little more barefoot feel, or the Prio or the Prio Neo. So the Prio Neo, the HFS, the Prio Neo, and the HFS original all have the same sole. The HFS2 gives you a little extra protection. So play with that. Is the Sunrise discontinued, or is a new similar design coming? It's a perfect little shoe. I don't know. There's certain things I can't keep in my brain any longer. So do me a favor. That's from Sexy Lamb. Email our customer happiness team, support@xeroshoes.com, and ask them, because they keep track of things like that and they will know. Wait, hold on. Wesley to the Bandito. Okay, wait. All right. Anyway, hi, Steve. Any chance of making a wide toe box SPD cycling shoe? Love the idea. I love it so much. I've been asking for it for 5 years. And what I can say is, for things like requests like that or suggestions, go to xeroshoes.com/feedback. That's down here, and put that as a suggestion. I have a really interesting theory about if we throw an SPD clip in a Xero shoe and I'll tell you why. Well, I'll give you the story, then I'll tell you what my theory is. We have worked with a number of cycling teams, the Novo Nordisk team, the Hincapie team, and one of the Hincapie riders said to us after they were done with the training ride, he got out of his cleats, put them in his jersey, put on his Prios, his Xero shoes, and on the way home noticed, even not clipped in, he was putting out more watts than he was when he was clipped in. And I have the idea that by actually using your foot, being able to move it as well, or being able to at least get the bones and muscles and ligaments and tendons aligned and sensitive, you're actually making a better, stiffer entire leg, really. Because right now, cycling shoes are so stiff, you just got a dumb lever at the end of your leg. To make that lever smarter, I think, is what's allowing better signaling to your brain and to your spinal cord about how to use your legs better. That's my theory. So what that would mean is, if I'm right, that we might have to do a whole different kind of bike fitting to deal with the way you're applying pressure into the pedals differently than the way you're currently doing it. So anyway, that's that. Kitty, thanks for all those great markers on my marathon training. Glad that was helpful. Renee, all I own is your shoes, and I've been wearing them for 5 years now. Thank you so much. We happily hear that a lot. because once you go zero, you can't go back. Got to find a rhyming version of that. The name you gave me, space boots. When are you making them? Define space boots. I actually did a little consulting for a university that was designing something for space, and I gave them some ideas. I don't know whatever happened with that, but if you mean something else, let me know what you mean. By the way, oh wait, don't forget to like the stream, y'all. It helps. Oh, thank you. That was from the name you gave me. And don't forget also, because I always forget this until the very end, and then I barely sometimes remember it. Well, here's my joke. I'm getting sick of the fact that everyone has a podcast. And if you want to hear more about that, go to my podcast. So I've been doing a podcast called The Movement Movement that's talking to a bunch of really, really smart people about using your body naturally or better. And I also do some rants every now and then when something is just keeping me awake at night and I have to get it out of my head and onto the inner tubes. So you can find it. Just search for The Movement Movement wherever you find podcasts, or go to www.jointhemovementmovement.com. There's nothing you have to do to join. There's no special dance we do every morning, although that would be fun. There's no membership fee or anything like that, but you can find all the previous episodes, of which there are very many. Or you can also find various places to find the podcast and how to follow us on social media as well. So don't forget that. Renee, I have my husband hooked after being a Keen supporter. I'm not going to say, actually, tell you this story. When I made my first pair of DIY sandals, it was just some rubber from a shoe repair place, some cord from Home Depot, and I made about 6 or 7 pairs. And I made a pair for my wife, Lena, who kind of patted me on the head, like, I don't know what these are. And both of us were wearing big, thick sandals, especially when I was doing something like jumping into Boulder Creek, or she was doing some hiking. I won't mention the names, but they rhymed with Bleva and Clocko. So I never actually wore Keens. Anyway, so we were about to do one of those things where after we were wearing our 4mm sandals for a few weeks, we each went to do something where we were going to put on our big, thick, chunky, heavy things, and got like 2 steps out the front door and went, that's not going to work, and never looked back. And so that's really how this all started a little over 16 years ago. Oh man, we're coming up on our 16th anniversary in just a little bit of time, which coincides with the whole Black Friday, Cyber Monday thing. So if you are not already hearing about like our kind of doorbestery things before Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and some that are happening during, go to xeroshoes.com/subscribe and make sure you are hearing about that in real time. We're definitely going to sell out of a bunch of stuff that we're putting on very deep discount, because we have a bunch of new stuff coming in. And so, do that. Raheem says, love the X1s. I do too. The X1 is the basketball shoe that we made that is being worn in the NBA and in the WNBA. And do I have one? Oh, I don't see one on the wall. And we've got like a new color. So our most famous current NBA player is Isaiah Stewart of the Detroit Pistons, and WNBA player is Tammy Fegbenley from the Golden State Valkyries. And they each have their own special colorway. Isaiah's just came out, and it was really, really fun. At the end of last season, he emailed and said, I played 72 games this season. I've never done that in my career. So our whole goal with basketball and with any sport is to give people more games in a season, more seasons in a career. And so far, so good. So I'm going to tell you the story about how the basketball shoe came to be, and it's because of Temi. About 8 years ago, was it 7 years ago, she emailed me and said, I've been wearing your stuff off the court, and my feet and ankles have become indestructible. You should make a basketball shoe. It just so happened that I had been at an event wearing one of our hiking boots, and there was a guy there who was a strength and conditioning coach for a Division I basketball team. And he said, that's kind of like, an old Chuck Taylor, a Converse All-Star, and you should make a basketball shoe. And I came back to the office, and our chief product officer was a guy who had worked at Converse. And so I told him this, and we took that hiking boot and we stripped it out of all the stuff that we didn't need. And we sent it to Temi. And she said, it doesn't quite fit me, so I can't play in it. But I can tell you this, I couldn't sprain my ankle on these things if you paid me to. So that was the impetus to kind of make it happen. And I kept pushing, and nobody would do it. And then about 2.5 years ago, we had just this sudden rash of players and coaches and trainers who called and said, we've got these guys who are really hip to this barefoot idea. you should make this shoe. And so we fast tracked it and did. And we were in the playoffs, 2 playoffs ago. Second, yeah, not the last one, but the one before. Justin Holiday from the Denver Nuggets was playing in the prototype of our shoe. And then this past year, we had, I think, 3 players who were playing two other than Isaiah, who showed up on the court wearing our X1. And Temi, again, wore it for her whole season as well, and when she's playing in Europe. So it's been super, super fun. Anyway, okay, Wesley, see, I want to know Weslito, the Bandito. Got it now. Definitely send in my feedback. Also plan on hiking the Pacific Crest Trail and my scramblers next year. We've had people hike every major trail in the world, in everything from our DIY kit sandals to the most, well-built thing that we made for trails, which is, so take pictures, send pictures. Name you gave me. I would assume if you guys made boxing shoes, it would need regulations, probably due to efficiency. The thing that we're really focusing on for like boxing and wrestling for the moment is literally just giving those guys things they can wear when they're training, because frankly, the number of people who buy things like boxing and wrestling shoes is pretty small. And since we're compared to, people who just buy some casual shoe, and since we are not a company with a boatload of money behind us, we can't do everything that I want to do. So we have to, it takes the same amount of time to develop something that will only be worn by 10 people as it does to develop something that's worn by, 10 million. So we have to be very careful in our selection of what we're doing next. But I don't know. One place where we've been having fun conversations is professional race car drivers. And there's a handful of them who love what we're doing. When they're on simulated cars, they're not actually in a physical car. They are often wearing our stuff, and there's a lot of regulations around those. Raheem, going to send an email for more colors availability. Great. If you're making suggestions about colors, make sure you're including links to the color that you're talking about, because just saying I want, chartreuse doesn't help, because like there's a booklet we have of colors. I think there's 57,000. So, and of course, all the whites have names that make no sense, but because there's just too many types of black and white, it makes my head explode. So yes, definitely show us samples by giving a link. What else was I going to say? By the way, for people who haven't been here before, first of all, thank you. If you've been here before, thank you again. And I don't stick around, forever. This is just as long as you guys have questions or comments or stuff. I'm happy to ask. I do need to get home at a particular time tonight because my wife had to leave the house and our dog is sitting there all alone. And while he actually doesn't mind that, it's nice to get home for the dog. Deneen says, after 2 years and 16 pairs, there's definitely no going back. But I'm going to assume that means I wish you had much taller snow boots with great grip. I live in the snowy mountains, but stuck with tall muck boots with no grip. So if you haven't seen, wait, I want to see if this is available now. And it's not quite what you're asking for, but I will tell you why I'm going to suggest taking a look at it. Let me do this. Let me go to the website and see if it's there. Hold that thought. Let's go to women and let's go to boots and let's do this. And then scrolling. Yeah, I'm going to throw this I'm going to throw a link to this in the chat. If you haven't seen this boot yet, and this comes for both men and women, but I'm doing a link for the women's. Let's see if I can reply to you, Deneen. I can. So the reason I'm recommending that, it's a little taller than the Alpine, and it has this, zip tie kind of cord thing at the top, so it can get around your calf a little better. But a high boot, kind of like, hold that thought, even higher than this, which is our Mika. I'm not even sure if this is available right now, but this is a request that a couple people have made. So definitely go and leave that suggestion at xeroshoes.com/feedback. That's how our product team knows what to do. Raheem also says also, great job of making a more formal Glen shoe. That is the Glen dress leather, shiny leather that you can polish. I don't know why I got the hiccups. Again, something I've been asking for, and other people have for a long, long time. So that was really, really fun to do. Trying to think if I have anything else on the announcement side. We have a lot of very cool stuff that we're planning for the spring. If I anyone who's been on these calls before knows that I can't keep a secret. So if I had a sample here, I would show you because I'm that kind of guy, but I don't have a sample here, so I can't show you. But I am very excited about stuff that we're doing for the spring and beyond. Can I see the women's Win shoe? Some reviewers are saying they're running narrower than some of the other shoes. It's totally not true. So, God, that was really snippy. My apologies. They're made on the same last, a foot mold, as many of our other shoes. So what often happens is one of two things. Different materials stretch or don't stretch differently. And my favorite thing is, like, you wear a shoe like the Speed Force, and you wear it for a little bit and it, definitely stretches to fit. And people get used to that fit when they've been wearing something. Then they put on something new and it hasn't been broken in yet. And they go, oh, you're making it narrower. We didn't make it narrower. It's just that, hasn't been broken in, or that the materials just don't stretch as much. Wait, do I have one here? Hold that thought. I'm looking. Too many things on the wall, not organized well enough. I don't have one. I thought I did. People keep coming into my office and moving things around, and then I don't know where they are. I don't have one here. Wait, I'm just checking one other place, two other places, three other places. Don't have one here. Suffice it to say, it's things can fit a little differently. For example, wait, I'll show you this. So something like this, our Atari boot, will feel different because A, it's leather, so it's thinner. B, it's leather, so it molds to your foot. And C, we have to make this a little bit wider, or a little bit something, because it's a dead fit. There's no laces to make it cinch up. So this could fit differently than something that has laces that you can open up and that will stretch over time. It's the best answer I can give. But feel free. I mean, if you're wondering about that, Cheyenne, go to reach out to our customer happiness team, give them a call or drop them an email and ask them for some advice. They are way better at that than I am, because they're dealing with human beings all day, every day. And I get to do it once a month like this. Okay. I like that. Are there multiple Deneen's? Is that what's going on? Hold that thought. Wait a minute. No, I don't know what's happening there. Right. One thing I was wondering, is the HFS2 more narrow than the HFS1 and Prio? Nope. Just like I was just saying, the HFSs are made on the exact same last. So they shouldn't fit differently. Keep in mind this one other thing, actually. These are made by human beings. So again, I wish I had a last here. It literally is just like a kind of a weird mold of a foot. Doesn't really look like a foot, but it is foot shaped. And when you're pulling the upper around the last, if one person one day is just pulling a little tighter than someone else on a different day, that can make a difference. So there's sometimes is minor variation, and this is true for every brand in the history of footwear that does things lasted like that. So we do everything we can to make things as consistent as humanly possible, knowing that there's tiny little variations sometimes because of humans. KP, hi Stephen, is there a difference between equivalent sizes in men's and women's, e.g. Prio size 42? Well, we do our sizing in US sizing, and then we kind of do the conversion. The real difference between men's and women's is not about length, but it's about volume. So we did a lot of analysis of feet, and I'm going to say something that's statistically accurate. So this is applying to a large collection of people. Doesn't mean that everyone fits in what I'm about to say. Statistically, women's feet are a little higher volume, like a little more arch, a little taller-ish, a little narrower in the forefoot, a little narrower in the heel. So we've had men who have narrower feet who are totally fine in the women's shoe. We have women who have wider feet, totally fine in the men's shoe. And we just have to say men's and women's, because otherwise it's like way too confusing for people. But the sizing thing, I'll say this, typically for our stuff, like a men's 8 is the same as a women's 9.5. Or another way of doing it is a women's 7 is a men's 5.5. So there's like a 1.5 size difference typically between men's and women's. Now we do have a few things where they're just in whole sizes, like, where is it? Again, someone took something off my wall that I wanted to show you. So we have the new Pagosa Cozy, the insulated slippery thing, and that just comes in whole sizes, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I don't know what the conversion is or how to think about the conversion for men's to women's. Actually, or maybe it's unisex. I don't even know. I can't remember. But again, for sizing questions, our customer happiness team, they're the best people to ask. Oh, wait, there's more. Yes, multiple needs. There we go. What are the odds of that? Multiple needs. That's really cool. Kitty, regarding a marathon shoe for road, so I recommend upsizing by half. No, I don't recommend going to a bigger size, because the reason that there's this whole idea that you have to go up in size, actually, I'll say this in two ways, or I'm thinking about this in two ways. The biggest reason people or shoe companies recommend going up in size is when you have a shoe with a big, thick sole that flexes it all. Think about bending a phone book, if you remember what a phone book is, where as you bend it, the inside is bending faster than the outside. The same thing happens with a shoe that has a bunch of foam. So what starts out as a 10 flat could be like a 9.5 or a 9 as you're doing this. The other thing is, if you are overstriding, if you're landing with let's think of it this way, your heel in front of your knee. I don't know. I guess this is your heel, this is your knee. So if you're overstriding, where you're landing with your heel in front of your knee, that means you're putting on the brakes every time you land. And when you put the brakes on, if your shoe sticks in the ground and your foot is moving forward, that's a thing. So what I recommend is start doing some training in your usual size and see how that feels and see what's going on. We just don't typically hear those reports from people like, oh, my toenails got blackened and fell off. I mean, I literally, my God, I've talked to tens of thousands, if not more people, and I've never heard someone say that. I'm not saying it's never happened, but if it does, it would be from like overstriding, so bad form, and then just your foot is sliding in the shoe if you haven't laced it well, and you're just, physics is physics. We can't violate the laws of physics. If this thing stops and your body's still moving forward, there can be a little bit of that. But the biggest thing I would say is do some training in the shoe that you're wearing. If you start feeling like you're having this happen, then consult us about, some form things, and maybe we can point you in the right direction. So that's not an issue. Like, another way to think of it, if you're wearing a shoe that comes right up to your toes are right on the edge, and all you're doing is going up and down, nothing's going to happen. There's no way you're going to be having some problem. I'm not suggesting that you wear shoes like that. But again, just think about what happens if you just go up and down. And when you're running with good form, you're doing the closest thing to up and down possible. So if your shoe fits fine with just the comfortable amount of space in front of your toes, you're probably going to be fine. And human beings are different. So try it. I'm not trying to make this gospel, but I will say give it a whirl and see how you feel. And, let us know if you have any questions, issues, etc., and we'll help as much as we can. Let's see. Some of the recent Xeros have a narrow toe box. I swear to God, they don't. I swear, we have literally never made anything to be narrower than whatever we did before. What it can feel like, I brought this up before, is so when I first got a new pair of the Speed Force, and this is the shoe that I live in, I put it on, I went, oh man, this feels like it got narrower. 24 hours later, it didn't feel like that, because this shoe really quickly adjusts to your foot. And I was comparing it to one that I've already been wearing that I had broken in and had gotten wider. So I've seen that happen quite a bit, where someone compares a shoe they've been wearing for a year or two. They go, well, the new one's narrower. It's like, no, the new one fits exactly the way the old one fit. You just forgot, and it just needs to break its way in. So if there's a particular shoe that you're curious about, feel free to reach out and ask. But what I can tell you from the design side, from the product side, we've never made anything to be narrower. Just not the way we do it. So like I mentioned before, the way shoes are made, the upper. So again, there's a mold that's kind of foot shaped, and one of the first things they do is they stretch the upper around that mold. And if someone's being a little stronger that day than they are on another day, that can make some changes. And again, certain materials will stretch more or less than others, or take more or less time to stretch. Again, this thing with this wide open mesh stretches to fit your foot really quickly. One of the leather shoes, leather, it'll definitely stretch to fit, but takes a little longer to do that because leather. So that's my lecture on sizing. In fact, I'm wearing a an updated version of the Prio, and we've actually changed it to make it slightly wider in certain places, not because it was a problem before, but because now we're having more people who, here, wait, again, Jordan, all I can tell you, the Speed Force, it's not narrower. I promise you, same last, different design, but otherwise exactly the same. So do with that what you will. And again, these things break in like crazy. Now, there may be some weird thing that happened for you. I don't know. But all I can tell you is we didn't make it any narrower at all. And when I put on the one versus the two, the materials feel different because the one had a foam package on the inside, and just the way the materials are cut, it definitely feels different. But it's made on the exact same last. That's all I can say. Did I miss anything? Okay, people are chiming in. Okay, so wait, did I want to check and see if I missed something? My apologies if I did. Jordan, any chance a lighter color would shrink more than a darker color? Shrink? Oh, like when the, not that I can think of, because I don't know that anything shrinks. Again, when we make these things, we design them to fit the same way they did before, unless there's some radical reason to change it. But I know the Speed Force doesn't, because literally I made the first shoe. I designed that shoe with one other guy, and it's the shoe that I wear 90% of the time. So I'm hypersensitive to what that thing does. But so there's no shrinking there. When a material is dyed, I can't imagine how a different color would change the performance of the material itself. So I don't know. It's an interesting question, but I can't. I mean, I've been doing this 16 years. If you put the rest of our product team together, we're well over 120 years worth of people doing this, and not something I've ever heard of. Anybody else? Anything else? Again, I'm going to hang out as long as you want me to. And a reminder, we do have, our Black Friday, Cyber Monday stuff happening. So be on the lookout. If you're not getting those emails, go to xeroshoes.com/subscribe to make sure you hear about stuff. Because we do have a couple things that we are doing some color updates for various things. So we got a few things we're going to definitely blow out, and you'll like to hear about that. Kitty says, I learned a lot here. Thanks for the great info session. I'll rewatch this. Oh, very kind of you. And so let's just, say, let's do it. Oh, wait. Cheyenne, would you say to size up in the boots versus the normal shoes? Typically on every product page, there'll be a recommendation like get your usual size or go up a half a size or whatever it says. So look at that first. And if you have a question about comparing a particular boot to a particular shoe, check with the customer happiness team. They'll be able to give you a better answer from their experience with many, many, many customers, rather than me just making it up because I don't know. Deneen, okay, makes sense. Must be the materials. My Zelen gray and turquoise two pairs are wider than the fig color ones. Several Zelens, still most comfy. I really love that shoe. And again, that's most likely that kind of thing is just the way someone pulled the upper around the last, because again, if it's the same shoe, there's no reason that two different colors would fit differently because of the color. It's the only thing I can imagine is that whoever made one color was kind of pulling a little harder than the person who made a different color. Wes Lito, thanks for the great shoes. They changed my life. Happy to hear that. Thank you very much. Deneen, what's a good way to keep the Dylans white? Again, that's a customer happiness team question because they've been dealing with that more than I have. There's keep versus return to. And the thing that we recommend for washing something is some gentle dish soap by hand and, nice little soft brush and see what that does. I don't have a better answer because I just haven't had to deal with that as much, but that's why our customer happiness team is available. So they're at support@xeroshoes.com or give them a call and they will happily do that. Hey, Kitty, for anyone who loves the Zelen, do me a favor, go to xeroshoes.com/feedback and let everyone know because that's important. It's a great shoe. Cheyenne, yes, I had the Z-Trail sandal cut different in purple than the teal ones. Makes sense. They're hand done. The sandals, how would they be cut different? Was it like different lengths of the straps? Because the sandal itself that's coming out of a mold. So I don't see how that would happen. So let me know. Kyle, oh my gosh, a lot of questions coming in. I've been a minimalist runner for 13 years. Xero shoes are hands down the best minimalist option. My only concern is I'm accumulating an unusually large number of them in my home. Keep up the great work. I wouldn't be concerned about that. As long as you can get in the front door, you've got plenty of room still. Jordan, your latest podcast talk with Judy Benjamin about Alzheimer's was very touching, especially speaking about your mother. By the way, that's podcast 259. Thanks. That was near and dear to my heart. That's well, when I met Judy was when she was talking about doing her walk across America. And my mom was still, in the throes of it all. So we had some really wonderful conversations about that. Kitty says, my hubs loves the black and tan Ridgeway that's over my shoulder, whichever shoulder it's over. That one, black and tan. And they've been covered in mud, washed up great, and still looks new. Thank you. The angle of the toe. So that's from Cheyenne. That's weird as crap because they're literally put in a mold and they come out of the mold. So I can't even guess how that would have happened. But that's one of those things that's so weird that I would, if it's a problem, reach out to the customer happiness team because I literally, for the life of me, can't imagine how that could have happened. I've watched these things get made and there's nothing in the process that would do that. So that's fascinating. Victor, any advice to minimize calf soreness from transitioning from regular shoes to Xero shoes? I'm a fan of your products. I have 4 pairs. Yes. In fact, I have a blog post I did about this. Let me see if I can find it really quickly. What the hell? Oh, it's in the learn section. Let me do a weird search for this. I think it's that I call calf pain is optional. And I have a couple things that I've done about calf pain. Let's see what I can find. Oh, I did that a little wrong. Sore from barefoot running. Let me see if this is the article that I'm looking for. Ooh, I just paid for that one. And there's another one. Let me see what that one does. And there's a third one. I've talked about this a lot, not surprisingly. So, okay, I'm going to give you a reply. Oh my. Okay, so let's see. Pardon me for people who are watching me look at my screen and copy and paste. It's certainly not the most exciting thing in the world. So I'm going to give you a reply, Victor. I hope this will, oops, that didn't work the way I wanted. Let me see if I can edit that. Can I edit? Nope, can't do that. Sorry. Let me try it again. I was trying to add a line break so that I could put in a couple of things. So there's one. And now let's get the other. There's 3 different links that I want you to see. Oh, this is silly. Okay, that's weird. And now let's go back over here and then add. Did that work? Hold on. Getting there. And then add that one. And then there's the last one. I think, that one's not important. Okay, so I'm just giving you 2 links that you can take a look at about making that transition where calf pain can be optional. And really, I'll give you the short version of oh, wait, hold on. There's a question that I missed from KP. Is there any low top sneaker that would be warmer than the Prio for day-to-day wear in the winter? I'm going to have to think about that for a sec. Give me a moment. I'm going to come back to you. The calf pain thing, there's 2 things that can cause calf soreness. The first is if you're overstriding. So you're reaching out with your foot, your ankle is in front of your knee when you land instead of kind of like significantly, and then you're pointing your toes. So here's the ground, here's your foot. If you're landing on the ball of your foot and then slowly trying to come down with your foot way in front of your body, then that's called eccentric loading. And eccentric loading is the fastest way to get sore. So you want to make sure that you're landing with your foot kind of as close to your center of mass as you can, or basically think about getting your ankle under your knee is a way to do that. One way to make that happen, try to pick up your cadence, steps per minute, without running any faster. So you're just moving a little faster, but not running any faster. Another way to think about that is, there's more to talk about on gait, but anyway, this thing of like slowing yourself down, that's going to be one way that you create ankle soreness. The other is if you've been wearing a typical shoe, and I know you've been wearing our stuff for a while, because these things don't bend properly and they build this toe spring in, we've kind of learned to try to push off the ground to get your foot off the ground. And that pushing is using your calf. Not surprisingly, your ankle, the way your ankle moves is because your calf is doing things. And instead of pushing off the ground, you want to think about lifting your foot off the ground. So imagine like if you stepped on a bee, you wouldn't push off the ground. You would flex your hip. You'd basically be lifting your knee up, and that would be lifting your foot off the ground. And so you want to have that idea in your mind of lifting your foot to get it off the ground rather than pushing your foot off the ground. So if you do those two things and you play with just relaxing, so I guess that's the third thing, then that's the typical thing that all the things I can think of that eliminate calf pain. So there's that. Okay, did I miss anything? Oh, low top sneaker that's warmer than the Prio. That's okay. It's a really good question. I'm looking at the waterproof stuff because any of the waterproof shoes now they're typically more. I don't think we don't have a waterproof HFS yet. The waterproof stuff has that waterproof lining, which inherently makes things warmer. They're typically our trail shoes, and so there's that idea. The Prio leather. That could be helpful as well, or Prio suede rather. That might be helpful also. And the only other thing, we had a win way up at the top there. Hold on. Okay, I'm going to come back to this. The only other thing I can think of is get a really thin, like merino wool sock, and that will be helpful because adding, if you're going to add insulation, you want something as thin as possible because you don't want to lose that ground feeling. So back to the win. Whenever we talked about the win, the way that this can feel a little different than something else is, again, because it's nylon instead of having like this open mesh. So even though they're made on the same last and fit the same way, because it won't stretch as much, that can be a thing. And if that's an issue, reach out to our. Now it still has laces where you can open things up quite a bit, but if that's an issue, reach out to the customer happiness team and make sure they pass on that feedback to the product team. This is the first version of this we made. I'll tell you, this is an inside secret about making shoes. It's really hard. And more importantly, you rarely get it perfect on the first try. In fact, you never do. And this is not just for us. This is for every footwear brand I know, and I know almost all of them. So even like the biggest brands, version 1, as soon as it gets out into the wild, there are people in those companies going, oh my God, I can't believe we didn't think of that. So just in the FYI department. And oh my God, I missed a bunch of questions. So that's why we want your feedback. Oh, the Kelso, that was from Phil. That's a great idea because it's also leather. So there's a something. Jordan, would be a very interesting video to see how a pair of are made start to finish. Maybe next time you're in China, wherever they're produced. Actually, almost everything's in Vietnam right now. Again, here's an inside secret. I love the idea, and I love it for a lot of reasons. One is because it's really cool, frankly. The other is because the jobs that we are giving people, these are really high demand jobs. We're using very top level factories that pay and treat their workers really, really well. You go to the cities that we've been manufacturing in, and these started out as little farm cities that then had some manufacturing, and now they're places I would love to live. I mean, there's some amazing places. So these are providing very good middle and above class jobs for a lot of people. That said, Americans in general get very twitchy when they see a whole lot of people on an assembly line. And Chinese people in general, have a very different work ethic than Americans. They're trying to make as much money as they can, as fast as they can, to send money home to their families in places where that money goes a long way. And I have the fear that posting something that I think is really, really cool is going to get people really upset about how we're treating our workers when people, literally line up for these jobs and they have to go through a lot of training to be able to get them. So it's really, really fascinating. And I'm torn. I'd love to hear more thoughts about that at some point. So, I've missed a whole bunch of things. Let me back up and figure out what I'm missing. Kitty, my feet pads are biologically thinner than when I was younger. It seems that I feel the road bumps a little more. Should I either add a cushiony sock or somehow exercise to toughen up my feet? Exercising is not going to toughen things up, really. I mean, a tiny little bit. the simplest thing I can say is whatever you need to do, especially if we're talking about, running a marathon, whatever you need to do it. You want to be as close to barefoot as you can, as often as you can, but for certain use cases, do what you need to do. You might want to, instead of adding a cushiony something, you might play with, there's things you can get called a rock plate, which we're eventually going to be selling, but we don't have one right now. Or find something like a really thin layer of carbon fiber. I know that sounds silly. You're going to go, where do I find that? Search for it. You'll find 1/16 inch carbon fiber. And you can cut that with a good pair of tin snips or something and put that under the insole. That'll give you a little extra protection. So there's something there. The best thing I can say, again, I think we've kind of had this conversation, is I can't give you a piece of advice without way more info and without, seeing your feet and walking you through it and things like that. So do what you need to do is the best thing I can say. It's kind of funny, actually. In normal shoes, like dress shoes or your typical running shoe you're going to get from anywhere, if you had a problem with it, like it was, causing some kind of friction on your Achilles tendon or something, the first thing people do is they go and they find some way to fix the shoe. They get some moleskin or they do whatever. But with a minimalist shoe, people think, oh, that's the way it is, and I can't change anything and I can't do anything else. Not true. Do what you need to do. So I hope that's helpful in a bizarro way. Okay, here's a big thing from Stephanie. Let's see what I can do here. I bought my first pair of Xero shoes this summer, the Prio Neo, and they've been the best for my flat, flexible arches, bunions, and narrow heels. I'm also neurodivergent, so feeling the ground helps a lot. I'm going to say something about that. I don't feel as safe going barefoot where I live now, and my Xero shoes are the next best thing. Here's my question. Which boots do I recommend for autumn and winter in Kansas? I've had the feeling women's Chelsea could be nice for a dress shoe. Seems to have a little more cushion for my dancer's feet, since I also walk and jog to the bus stop a lot. I also live next to trails. P.S. I got some hypermobile joints. Okay, so hypermobility, the solution for that is always strength, because it's about control, not mobility. I mean, you can be hypermobile but still have strength. Like contortionists work a lot on strength. They don't work on being flexible. They work on being strong, because the flexible part is natural. So either Alpine is great for cold weather. I have not worn the pull-on yet because it hasn't been cold here in Colorado yet, but I wore the regular Alpine last winter when it was 10 below zero for 2 weeks in a row. And I was wearing it in bare feet and felt great. Any of the waterproof stuff actually will add, some warmth as well. But the Alpine is what we designed for cold weather, flat out. Oh boy, what else? I mean, the Tari is a great shoe. Any of the hiking boots, again, are going to be super warm also. And that's my best recommendation. But definitely, even the Alpine, while it's really good for really cold weather, I know people who wear it just kind of all the time anyway. So do it that way you will. Corey, how do we choose how wide to make the last? In the early days, when we were just making sandals, we had tracings of people's feet, about 5,000 of them, because they had asked us to help them make sandals for them. What we've done since then is we have a 3D scanner, and we've scanned many, many, many feet. And foot size and volume, like shape and volume, it's on a bell curve. So there's some people that are on the really, really wide, high volume side, some people on the really, really narrow, low volume side. And what we want to design for is two things: capturing as much of that spectrum as we can while not looking clownish. So that's how we kind of figure that out. And there's some design things you can do to impact that. So there's things you can do just with the design of the shoe, where from the top down, it can be wider but not look it. So that factors into it as well. Stephanie, any offers for folks who have lower or fixed incomes who need the shoes or boots? I don't know. Reach out to our customer happiness team and ask them. Did I happen to see the Code footwear cleat that you said? I looked at it at one point, and I'm going to try and jog my memory really quick. If it's what I think it is, I know what my answer is. Hold on, I'm checking for the hell of it. I don't look at other people's stuff that often, frankly. Oh, yeah. So the thing that I can say simply is that, where to begin? This is going to sound really weird. I could take a mold of your foot and make a shoe that perfectly fits your foot, and you might not find it comfortable. So there's a whole personal preference involved in doing that. But more, we have similar goals of making shoes that are good for your feet and help you move naturally and all the benefits that gives you. But we have different goals as a business. We're trying to make shoes for almost anything you can do for everyone who's doing those things. And so, more power to them. The more people who are doing things that bring awareness to natural movement, the better. I've looked into some 3D printed stuff and custom made stuff based on the shape of one's foot, and it's just not a business model that works for us at this time. So they tend to be really expensive, and our goal is to make things affordable. And then there's that weird thing where I've seen this happen a lot, where it fits your foot perfectly, but that's not what you're looking for. Because some people are hypersensitive and want a little more space. Some people want things more snug. It's really bizarre how the personal preference component of sizing is probably the most important component of sizing. So there's that. Denise says, thank you for taking care of your employees. We're all Xero family. It is really true. And we, in fact, when I have gone to China, and I haven't been to Vietnam yet, I'm hopefully going next year, but it was really fun when it would be lunchtime and the people who own the factories would say, hey, let's go for lunch. And they'd want to go somewhere special. And I'd say, where's everyone who's on the floor going? And they went, well, they're just going out to this, little like stand out in front of the office. I went, I'm going with them. And we had a lot of fun. It was way more fun to get the same thing everyone else is eating, because they're not going to suffer bad food when they're, working long hours. It was a blast. Oh, Stephanie replying to Stephanie and wait, what? Stephanie and Bruce. Oh, someone's replying to Stephanie. I don't know. Bought my other ones on clearance from the outdoor store who didn't offer the boots. I think, got it. Any offers for folks who have, there we go. Replying to Stephanie, hey, take a look and see if there's an outdoor store who's got things on clearance, or, look on eBay. Right now, there's still people selling stuff on eBay that's used. We're looking to improve that whole thing so that we will help people resell shoes that are used but still really, really good. So stay on the lookout. Be on the lookout. I'm getting to the point where I can't speak English. We're at the 52-minute mark. This is where I lose the ability to think. Endless Wallet says, thank you. Got it. Thank you, Steve. Great. I have no idea what I responded to. So literally, once I've looked at the question and then I start answering, I don't remember what the hell I said. GP Lowry, how does one deal with backpacking, lifting heavy weights and barefoot shoes? This is an activity that requires more supportive shoes. Hasn't for me. Now, for lifting heavy weights, let's start there, because this is a favorite for me. Sadly, I am not lifting heavy weights any longer. I have a messed up spine. There's arguments about whether it's something I did when I was an All-American gymnast 40-something years ago, or if it was congenital. But my doctors won't let me squat or deadlift heavy weights anymore. I used to deadlift 450 pounds, which is kind of fun because I'm 5'5" and weigh 150. I used to squat, in the mid threes, and I never really pushed that. So I don't do that anymore. But let's talk about professional powerlifters and weightlifters. They're always wearing, if you watch powerlifting competitions, especially the deadlift and often the squat, they're in flat shoes or socks or barefoot. So it's not about the shoes. The shoes are, if anything, what they're doing is giving you grip. So we were at a powerlifting competition, and a woman is trying on one of our shoes, and they call her name for the bench press. And she's like, I got to go. And she runs over, and she comes back and went, I just had a 20-pound personal best. And she said, because I could feel the ground for one, and the grip of the shoes, I was like screwing my feet into the ground better than I ever have. And even for people who don't know, it sounds crazy, but the bench press starts with your feet. So there's just an impulse that you ride, and it starts with your feet. So there's that. When it comes to like backpacking, all I can tell you is we've had people through hike every major trail in just Xero shoes. In fact, what started happening early on was when we just had sandals and we had the Z Trek and the Z Trail, is we'd hear from people who were on the Appalachian Trail who had their big hiking boots, and they'd get to wherever they were stopping for the day. They'd put on our sandals, and then at a certain point they went, these feel pretty good. I want to keep wearing them. And then a couple stops later, they sent their boots home. So the whole idea behind a barefoot shoe is letting your feet do what they're meant to do. And what that means is bending, flexing, and moving. And if you want to make things strong, that's how you do it. If you want to make things weak, you make it so they can't move. It's just like your arm. If I want to make this thing stronger, I use it. If I want to make it weaker, I support this pardon me, this joint, I put a cast on there, the joint is supported, the muscles, ligaments, and tendons get weaker. So now I'm not saying you just switch to a barefoot shoe, put on a 50-pound back, and away you go. Just like if you haven't been to the gym for a while, and you used to lift, whatever the exercise was, 100 pounds for 5 sets of 5 reps. If you take a year off, you don't go back to that 100 pounds doing 5 by 5. You do an embarrassingly small amount of weight for an embarrassingly small number of reps and sets. And you build up as it's becoming clear you're getting stronger. Now, the good news with weight training, you know when it's not working because you hit a limit and you can't push anymore. With your feet, it takes a little more finesse to pay attention to what's feeling good and when you need to rest. So I hope that's useful. But I mean, literally, we have people who've done, big, heavy packs for long distance, just wearing these because they got used to doing it. And you know what? If you land with your feet more underneath you instead of way out in front of you, which is sort of the natural way to do it, if you're using your glutes and hamstrings as the prime movers to help you walk, which if you do that, get your swing leg, the front leg underneath your center of mass, you're using all of the muscles, ligaments, and tendons in your legs and hips more efficiently, more effectively, which gives you more support, which makes you able to handle all that stuff you're doing better. That's my thing. Actually, one last thought about that. There is a couple that I bump into on the trail every morning. I don't bump into them every morning. I'm on the trail every morning with my dog, and I bump into them like every couple of weeks. And they are into rucking, and they've got some pretty heavy weights on them, and they're wearing Xero shoes. And they say that's why they're able to do that, and they're having fun. There's Stephanie's all over the place. Centurion Wood joined late, was wondering, is X2 in the works? I've read a lot of comments about the lack of grip they have. It actually depends on the surface you're on. For some people, it's too grippy. For some, if there's stuff that's kind of, again, we can't violate the laws of physics. So if there's some grit or think sand, I'm not saying that's what it is, that can make things a little less grippy. But yes, there is exactly what you're talking about, an updated version coming out. I don't remember when because I can't keep that in my head, with a new material that we just found that is unbelievably cool and unbelievably grippy. So stay alert, be alert. I'm not sure when it's happening, but it's definitely happening. Jordan says, great discussions. I can listen to you all night. Thanks. Well, that's very kind and silly of you. Very kind of you. Obviously, I have a great time doing this. Kitty says, yes, great tonight. Thank you. Thanks, Steve. Jason, no problems backpacking with my Mesa Trail WP or Scrambler Low EV. Being able to feel the terrain has changed my hiking life. That's another good point, is when you're actually paying attention to what you're doing with your feet, changes the whole game. So, okay. I'm actually going to call it, I'm going to do a going once, going twice. If you got a burning question, toss it in there. I'll just do a couple more and then I got to go because I'm hitting the point where I realize my wife asked me to be home, and I don't like, doing things that, you know what I'm saying. Remember, at the 50-minute mark, I lose the ability to speak intelligently. So, okay, going once, going twice here. I'm going to do the outro while I wait to see if there's a couple of questions. Once again, remember, we do have Black Friday, Cyber Monday things coming up, and we've been doing some kind of, doorbuster deals in advance of that, and we'll be doing some more during that event. If you're not already hearing about when that's happening, keep your eyes open on social media, but also just go to xeroshoes.com/subscribe so you'll get those emails about that. Denise's saying dinner. I don't know yet because Elena's not there, so I'm cooking for myself. I don't know what I'm in the mood for yet. I have to wait till I get there and look in the fridge and look in the freezer and figure it out. Remember also my podcast, just for the fun of it, which is called The Movement, because we are all creating a movement about natural movement. And go to jointhemovementmovement.com to find out more about that. Marilyn Ware Carey says, any possibility of a U.S. product? The simple answer is no. The more complicated answer, and the one that I like to explain, is keep in mind, this is coming from industry experts. There's certain things you can make in America at lower volume, but not most of the stuff that we're doing. We would love to make things locally or domestically, but it's literally not possible for us to do what we're doing domestically in the same way that it's literally not possible to get domestically made versions of the devices we're using to have this conversation. The industry experts say that to bring footwear back to America, because it's been overseas for well over 50 years, would cost tens of billions of dollars and take at least 10 years. Keep in mind, The equipment isn't here. The people who know how to use the equipment aren't here. And the materials that you need to put them in that equipment, that's not here either in any appreciable amount. And of course, if it does come back, it ain't going to be the companies our size who get access to that equipment. So it's something we're always looking into, and we're just not seeing a way to do that currently. And that's why the factories that we work with are really, really high quality factories that treat people really, really well. Wait, a couple things. Denise saying, have a good night. A bunch of people saying, will I be at the World Club with cleats and for myself? Don't know yet. It's the best answer I can give there. Anyway, all right. It's really fun. So once again, thank you so much. We do this once a month, and typically on the third Tuesday of the month. It's probably obvious that I love doing this. So thank you for letting me have this fun. And again, if you're not watching in real time, you can still put in questions and people will get back to you as soon as humanly possible. Maryland, Ware and Carey, by the way, I'm from Maryland. It is a shame because this is a great industry, and it's just misunderstood. People think there's a simple answer to this. Like if we can imagine things, we imagine that it's as simple as imagining, or that reality is as simple as imagining. It's just not. I mean, what it took when people were leaving China and going to Vietnam was many, many tens of billions of dollars. And there, everything's still over there. And here, it just ain't here. So, Digi, any chance we could get a new Speed Force with gorgeous yellow and black color scheme that I have on the Prio Neo? Go to xeroshoes.com/feedback and make that request. So, last but not least, and I'm definitely getting out of here, so I'm not answering any more questions. Lane and I started Xero Shoes just a couple days. We're a couple days away from our 16th anniversary, and I'm going to get teary. We never imagined that it would have become this. I mean, not in our wildest dreams. And we couldn't be more grateful for all the help that you've given us. Not only, I mean, beyond just buying shoes. I mean, that's not it, but being part of these conversations, sharing with your friends and family, being willing to talk to strangers who stop you on the street and say, what are you wearing? Or are those Xero shoes? And because the number one thing that has grown the business is word of mouth. And that's all you. And we couldn't be more grateful. And our goal is just to treat you as well as we humanly can, knowing that there's a lot of humans and we do it well most of the time. And sometimes we make a mistake. And when we do, we want to hear from you so that we can do everything we can to correct that. When Lane and I started, we thought that, providing a good service to people, the bar is pretty low, but we want to raise the bar and always clear that bar. And like all human beings, none of us are perfect, but we really appreciate how you guys have been with us for the ride. And we have a lot of wonderful things planned for the future. And we can't wait to hear what happens when you experience and enjoy those and share those. But more importantly, like I like to say at the end of all these things, until then, just go out and have fun and live life feet first.